I really appreciate everybody taking the time to connect in this virtual world. It's really important that we, one, are able to do this so that we can connect as humans, and also to connect so that we can create efficiencies for the services and supports that we're offering for the other humans in our community, so that they're getting those, what they need as well. So welcome. I appreciate, again, everybody being here. I do want to acknowledge also this is the second of our calls. We are, hopefully we'll have everybody's grace in case we experience any technical issues here. We had our first call on Tuesday, had a good number of folks that were participating. And what I heard in that call was the opportunity and a lot of people making connections in terms of needs that they have, and then others making connections in terms of what they're able to provide in terms of supports and services. And then a few folks actually making connections outside of this platform. The purpose of this platform is really to do just that, is to help create those connections, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to give my little ear nod to Vicki, who's running or Peyton, who's running our slides here, to go to our next one. Thank you. We may have a few folks who have joined the call that are not familiar with Eastside Pathways or what we do. Just very, very briefly, Eastside Pathways is a partnership of community stakeholders who are coming together on a regular basis just to improve the way that we're working together so that we get better outcomes for children and youth in East King County. There is a backbone, which is kind of the staff, if you will, of the partnership, and that's what I'm a part of. Our specific role in this partnership is to convene and facilitate. That's what we do. We don't do any direct service. And so in this crazy time, what we started to see was an opportunity for us to shift our focus and provide our skills of convening and facilitating in a different way, in a way that's needed right now. And so that's what we're doing, is we're offering those skills so that different stakeholders in the community can make connections. You do not need to be an Eastside Pathways partner to participate in this. This is open to the community. It's a drop-in meeting that we're going to be hosting and facilitating. And I'll talk a little bit more about the rhythm of the meetings. But one thing I did want to also mention from our last call, we had folks, and we'll ask again, folks to please offer your name, your contact information in the chat box. I did want to mention all of the notes from the last convening are available in a Google Drive. If included in that is an attendee list with contact information. If you are not wanting to have your contact information or your name included on that, if you could please contact Joe Trotty on our team. And the way you can do that is through the chat box. For those who may not be familiar, when you go to the chat box, everybody is automatically set to everyone, to communicate with everyone. There's a little drop down next to that word everyone, and you can directly chat with Joe and let him know if you do not want to be included. It's Joe Trotty is the person on our team. Speaking of team, I want to introduce everybody on our team, and when I say your name, if you could just wave your hand so folks can see. First, we have our community impact managers who are facilitators, Sandy Nathan and Kalika Curry, as well as Joe Trotty, who I already mentioned, does communications on our team. Peyton Richardson is our data officer. And working behind the scenes and keeping us all together is Vicki Yu, who is our business and operations manager. So just wanted to introduce those guys. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So just a couple of technical issues for those who may not be familiar with Zoom or participating for the first time in this Zoom call. What we want to suggest is that you share your video if you haven't already. As I mentioned at the start of this, having that human connection is really important, and a video helps in that. We understand that you may not be able to, but we encourage you to do that if you can. Additionally, if you could please keep yourself on mute until you are ready to speak. There's oftentimes background noise. We know that there are a lot of people who have kids at home as well. We love hearing kids, and we also want to be able to facilitate that everybody can hear what's happening in the call. If for some reason we're hearing background noise, Vicki does have the ability to mute you. But you have the ability to unmute yourself when you're ready to speak. One thing that's really, really important, though we are capturing this as a recording and you'll be receiving a summary, we do want to encourage everybody to make sure you have a notepad and pen and you're taking the notes that are really relevant for you. And then make sure that as people are offering information, that you take note of their name. So again, the idea is you want to make those connections so that the work can continue outside of this forum. The chat box I have mentioned already. I see people already putting in their name, the group that they're with, either a organization or a community group. Thank you for doing that, and your contact information. If you can also please add in there if you are new to Eastside Pathways at all, that's something that we want to track as well. We also encourage you to take care of your needs. If you need to jump out for a minute, please do that. Again, we know that these are unusual circumstances. You might need to attend to a youth or child that's doing some schooling, so please feel free to do that. And again, this meeting will be recorded. One thing that I also want to mention for this particular meeting, we didn't do this last Tuesday if you were here, is that we're going to be providing an opportunity for small group discussions via breakout sessions. And we're going to do that via the magic of Zoom. So you will be, in the latter part of this call, automatically placed into a small group discussion and then brought back to the large group again. So keep your fingers crossed that that works. Okay. So for now, thank you again to all those folks who are adding your name, the community group or organization that you're with, and your contact information as well. Just a reminder, please let us know if you're new to Eastside Pathways. So at this point, what I want to do is turn it over to Peyton so he can provide some additional information as we move forward.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to move forward here. I'm going to unvideo myself just to preserve my streaming capabilities. So hello and goodbye. But I just want to really look at the data that we have collected from the Google form that Stephanie talked about and that Joe had sent out. Briefly, we just wanted to look at what some of the topics are that you all have at the top of your mind, and we will include this in the chat again today and in further communication. We really want to be receptive to specific topics that each of you or all of you really want to center around, and that's really how we are trying to craft these calls and craft the large discussions and the breakout sessions by looking at what are the issues that our community is really interested in, and things that are rising to the top during this time. And with that said, again, we have these topics that were chosen here along the bottom, and we will email those out as well. I don't want to dwell too long on those, but these are the breakout sessions that we want to have today. And obviously we don't need to have all of them. We want everyone to vote with their feet or their fingers, if you will, to go to these sessions. So what we're going to ask you all to do is to, in the chat box, please put the number that is next to the the topic that you would like to, break out into. And for folks who either can't see or who might be on the phone, I'll just do a quick read through. Number 1 is food services. 2, childcare services. 3, remote learning options. 4, transportation assistance. 5, financial assistance, including employment assistance, unemployed, and health benefits. 6 is housing, rent assistance, eviction, instability. And 7, concerns for vulnerable populations, issues around domestic violence and child abuse. So if you would please type in the chat box one of these numbers, and Vicki will work some magic so that when the breakout session time comes, we will place you into the appropriate breakout session with the facilitator, and we can do some deep dives on these particular topics. And I'm going to move us so that we have the time. These are just some summary stats as to what happened on Tuesday. We had about 29 individuals representing around 22 different organizations, and our little sector representation pie graph, as you can see. We are really excited to continue to work with each and every one of you, and really excited that we have such great representation on these calls, as we're really looking to share and collaborate resources and people and time and thought partnership with one another. So again, this is simply just a summary statistic of last Tuesday, 2 days ago, the call that we had. So I'm going to move it on and give it back to Stephanie, who's going to lead us in the gracious space. And just a reminder, please, within that chat box, please throw in those numbers, and I'm going to quickly go back just so everyone going to give you 30 seconds to look at these numbers again in case you missed them, to understand what breakout session you want to go into. And with that, I'm going to move forward again and hand it to Stephanie, who's going to move us into our gracious space.
Great, thanks, Peyton. So what's actually happening here, and if needed, if you need to see that list again at some point, just put that in the chat. We can pop that back up. So what's happening right now, just so you know, is Vicki is working in the background to start to get people grouped into the areas that you are interested in. And then what'll happen, as I mentioned in the latter part of the call, is that you will be placed into the breakout rooms based on what you're saying here. This gives Vicki a little bit of time to get that organization done while we're continuing with the call. Okay, so moving on, again, one of the really important things for us to do is to connect as humans. And part of that process is what we call gracious space, and to get ourselves centered in the work that we're doing. And the gracious space question for you all to consider and ponder for a moment, and then please add in your responses via chat, and I will invite people to also unmute themselves if you want to add your contribution verbally. The gracious space question is, what does accountability look like to you in these difficult times? So take a moment, ponder that, add your responses into the chat. And again, feel free at this point to unmute yourselves and offer verbally. I see some responses coming in, giving accurate and meaningful information. Great, thanks, Lynn. Scheduled check-ins with community partners, awesome. Knowing what my programs can offer and being creative and providing services, great, thank you, Judy. Sense of normalcy for our youth, absolutely. Protecting time to stay connected to the pulse of the community, that's absolutely what this is able to help us do. Breaking down barriers.
This is Sue too. I think the whole thing that a lot of us live by, to whom much is given, much is expected. And we're all in that.
Thanks, Sue. So that sense of personal accountability.
Right.
I'm hearing. Yeah, thank you. Helena, highly responsive and nimble to immediate needs. Love it. Thank you. That's super. Equitable services. Great. Continue to feel free to offer those into the chat. I would like to offer, in the spirit of moving forward on our call here, is there someone who'd be willing to kind of summarize what we've seen and heard here as we move forward?
Well, I think, this is Sue, I think what we've seen is that people are really concerned about their fellow man and woman on the East Side, and that we're all in to try and figure this out and help them in many different ways.
Yeah.
And equitable. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that last addition, that the equity and is really, really, really important in this. And I think being mindful of that and keeping that in the center of our work is something that's key. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Something to continue to be mindful of and present as we move forward in that work. So if we can, Vicki, move to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So the meeting series here, just again, really briefly, is that we're offering to host this drop-in series of sessions. We've made the decision that we're going to host these twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to keep it at this time for simplicity, from 10 to 11. We want to be highly, highly, highly responsive to what the community and emergent needs are. That list of topics are ones that you all have said are important to you to make connections on. We'll continue to have that. We want to try and focus on 2 per call, but then also make space for any emergent issues that come up, because things are happening so rapidly. So that's how we're prepared to support this work. We're prepared to do that through April 24th for at least the next 6 weeks. We are still continuing to do some of our other work and planning moving forward, but we want to shift our work to support the community in this way. So we're prepared to do this twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, 10 to 11 a.m. The call-in information will be available in the summary information that's sent out after these calls, as well as we're working to get that up on the website too. So you don't have to remember to find it in an email. It'll be available on the website. And you can pass it along to others to whom you may think this would be useful. What you can expect in these are the breakout time for specific either sector or topic. Sectors are defined as kind of early learning or post-secondary. Topics, of course, are some of the things that we've already seen: food, housing, etc. And then again, you all are determining together what topics are of utmost importance to be discussing at that moment. So we're really looking for that input from you so that we can design the facilitation to support that. And again, the results of this is real-time sharing for resources, getting rid of gaps and making sure that duplication is not happening, and of course, strengthening our community relationships. Okay. All right, let's move on, and I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Nathan, who is our facilitator for today.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. Excited to see the great responses to our gracious space question. Great summary by Sue. I'm going to use that to springboard us onto this section. I'm excited for you all to have prioritized this call in your busy schedules, even more so in these unprecedented times. You are really exemplifying the merit and power in collective action. Some of the primary results from the series, as Stephanie mentioned, are really making and strengthening connections, accountability, and creating spaces so you all can co-develop solutions. we heard some great conversations in our Tuesday call. That was our first. We saw evidence of opportunities to make deeper connections offline. So at this point in this section, I would like to invite you all to reflect on two questions today. What progress have you made as a result of our last call on Tuesday? What connections have been valuable? And as you reflect on these questions, your responses will help us stay accountable as we plan this series and as we convene you all into these spaces. It will also help the new folks participating for the first time to understand what to expect from these sessions. The way that we will be sharing, I invite you to share your responses in the chat box. I will also invite a few folks to share verbally by unmuting yourself. So take about 20 seconds to reflect on these two questions. What progress have you made as a result of our last call on Tuesday? What connections have been valuable? Please start sharing in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Judy has invited the program manager from HopeLink to this meeting. Lynn, the responses from this section will also help you understand the value that folks see in these convenings. Welcome to your first call. Can I invite a few folks to unmute themselves and share the value that the connections that you made on Tuesday's call has helped and make the progress that you did? There are a lot of videos and I can't see if anybody is volunteering to chat. Kathy.
Hi, this is Kathy Hallett. I'm Eastside Pathways board chair. I currently live in Kirkland. I used to live in Bellevue. And this is more just me as an individual person. My husband and I make some charitable contributions, and after the last call, we made some decisions to increase some contributions to some of the organizations that are helping in this emergent needs. And that kind of leads me to that I'm hoping we can figure out a way to try to lift up those organizations that are just increasing their support greatly and need the funds to continue doing that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathy. I see more responses in the chat. Anybody else that would like to share verbally?
Yeah, this is Helena. So three things come to mind since our last meeting. One, as a side point, I have been doing a deeper dive in the links that people were exchanging back and forth. I'm not sure that everybody is getting all the information and trying to connect that, but I will say that most of the links that are out there are very helpful as far if we can use that to get that out to smaller community groups and populations that could really benefit from that information. And I also thought, looking at the Chamber of Commerce link as to what people had to offer versus what resources are needed is excellent. And so thank you, Chamber, if you're on the line. Great job with that, and would love to see that utilized more. The second thing is that I've been taking the information from that's generated out of these meetings, and I've been sending it upline at the city so that the city is staying current as to what community needs are and what agencies are saying are concerns, and what kind of possible responses the city could have for those. And third, did do a follow-up conversation with a similar community group that King County has put together with the Seattle Foundation, and that just to follow up with a request from Stephanie as to how are they putting this type of model together and how are they responding. And I'm still working to get more information from them. I don't know that they're and Amy, maybe you're part of that group. I'm not sure. Maybe you can speak to it more. But my understanding is that there's supposed to be a weekly opportunity where members of the general community can say what their concerns and needs are. And I'm trying to get more information about when that happens and who can all participate. So that's what I've been doing with the information since Tuesday.
Excellent, Helena. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd also like to lift up that Amy Liu from Microsoft shared a link to United Way, which has a comprehensive list of resources. We will make sure to share the chat transcript with you, the presentation and the recording, so you don't miss out on all the valuable information that's getting shared here. In keeping time in mind, I would like to move forward. There are some great responses on the chat, and I would encourage folks to go back to it. Can we move to the next slide, please, Peyton? Thank you. This brings us to the large group sharing that Stephanie set a context for when she spoke earlier. Peyton also spoke to the Google Doc form, where you can share topics that are emergent, burning, and important for you. We have been listening in during the chat that we had on Tuesday and in various platforms. And moving forward in the series, we are going to be looking at 2 topics that you lifted up as important, and also acknowledge that in these times, things are rapidly changing. So we want to be able to hold space for emergent and burning topics. In this section, what we will be doing is, we have 3 topics really: the food, childcare, and anything else that might be burning and emergent for you. We'll have 7 minutes, approximately 7 minutes on each of these topics. We would like you to unmute yourself while I go on mute. I will be opening up the floor shortly. We are really inviting folks to lift up things that you want to share and partner on, any resources that you have. We will be starting with food. So I'm going to be muting myself as I open the floor. Are you all ready to roll? Peyton, can we go to the next slide, please? Food services, anything that you might have relating to food services, you can use the chat box or feel free to unmute yourselves and share. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'll start. I'm Lindsay Robinson. I'm the food program manager at HopeLink, and this is my first time joining up with Eastside Pathways, so thank you for having me. I'd like to share out that HopeLink is currently transitioned to a new model of food distribution at our 5 food bank locations. And rather than having people come into our food banks, we have changed to a pre-packed box model that has food for 1 to 2 people in each box, the caloric equivalent of about 21 meals. So for every 2 members of a household, they would get 1 box. And people are invited to come to each of our locations twice a month to pick those up. We've basically eliminated all unnecessary processes in order to make this process just be really fast and easy for people. And so we are shutting down all incoming donations at this time. But financial donations are definitely a huge need because we are absolutely exceeding our budget with this new model. And I think that's it, unless there's any questions.
Hi, this is Amy from Microsoft. Just a quick question on a couple things. Are you able to provide sort of specialized meals at all at this time of crisis? Understand if the answer is no, but just sort of checking in on that. And then also, can you just say a little bit more about why you're no longer accepting food donations? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So as to specialized meals, we are at this time limited in our abilities to do that. We do have a no-cook emergency bag option for people who don't have cooking facilities, who are maybe houseless at this time. That would be near the extent of our specialized abilities right now. There are just a couple of cases of homebound people who have strict diet restrictions, and we are making some accommodations for that, but we simply don't have the capacity to accommodate more than that, and we are very aware that that is not meeting some people's needs. And then as to donations and why we're not accepting those at this time, and that is a very extensive hit on our resources. It's simply to limit potential exposure and spread. We understand there's more information coming out about this, and we are constantly learning, but for the time being, we are holding to this. We're not accepting anything coming in from grocery stores or from the population, just to minimize risk. We're only getting things direct warehouse to warehouse, basically, to minimize touches. And then financial donations are definitely accepted.
Thank you so much for all you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for all the people who are providing food services. How are you translating down your information and getting it out to communities that speak other languages than English? I was talking with our diversity staff yesterday, and they said that there's still a strong need for translation of services of this information and resources. And so I was just curious as to how you're getting translated information out about food services to the population.
So speaking to HopeLink in particular, I know that our internal documents, we do the best that we can to translate into our 4 highest represented languages, which tend to be Russian, Chinese, Spanish, and English. And then external information at this time, I think that's a really good point that I'd like to bring up to our communications team. I'm not sure how much, I'll need to check on that, basically, is the answer, because there is information going out, and the information that's on our website can be translated through Google, is my understanding, but want to provide that reminder wherever there's an opportunity on social media or otherwise that we are providing the translations also. It could be that if it goes through social media or our website that there's automatically that option, but in any case, thank you for bringing that up.
Excellent. This is a quick little snapshot on food. You all will have the time to delve deeper in the breakout session if you have chosen food as a topic. I would like to move us along to our second topic for the day for the large group discussion. It's going to be childcare. So feel free to chime in and talk about childcare resources, things that you need support and to be able to partner on. Thank you.
Hey, Sandy, one thing I just wanted to offer to the group, just especially given the last sharing, thank you, by the way, for that, is that if there are challenges that some of us, either individually or as organizations, are presenting, it's also the opportunity for us to think more broadly in terms of what we're able to offer to that individual or organization in terms of partnering and our capabilities. So this is the point, to make those connections, either directly via the chat and then continue that offline, because it's about building those connections together. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephanie. I would like us to switch gears at this point and talk about childcare. We did hear in the conversations yesterday that Judy brought up a point about 9 childcare sites that had opened, few of which were closed down because they didn't see enough attendance. Anything that has changed, any updates from the school district on the childcare sites? I read Christy from Boys and Girls Clubs of Bellevue is currently operating at 4 clubhouses with the capacity of serving 50 children. Any other developments that folks would like to share on childcare or any other emergent themes? Helena has a great question. How can we get a daily update as to how many childcare sites are available? Any thoughts or pondering on that?
I'll unmute myself. Sorry, I have my daughter with me, so she's being kind of loud. We currently have 4 sites that we're operating, and there's about 30 kids going to each site. Most of them are families that are, having to work the front lines, whether they're first responders, medical people, along with, the parents that are still having to work at construction sites.
Thank you for sharing, Christy.
You're welcome.
This is Kathy Habib. This is a little bit more of a general question, but maybe kind of relates to childcare. I looked at the United Way King County site for list of resources, and that's great, but I just wish there was somewhere here on the east side, even just covering the Lake Washington and Bellevue School District attendance areas, where there could be just this really quick list, something that would be really readable in all languages. For the list of food, list of childcare, and I was wondering, Helena, I hate to put you on the spot, but is that something that the cities could get together to compile that list? It seems like it shouldn't be done individually for each city, but maybe Kirkland, Redmond, Bellevue, and just have that up on a website.
I agree with you, Kathy. There has to be a more coordinated effort in our communications. I actually, just before this meeting, sent an email to our communications officer about how we can make that site more robust and easier access to the general public. That really pops out at you and gives you really east side information. And I know that Alex is on the line too. We have been, there's a resource page in the COVID-19 page for the city. And I've sent the link before, and I'll be happy to send it again. But it needs to be more prominent, I think, and it does focus on what the East Side can offer, is specifically in Bellevue. But I do think that we'll be working with them to get it more robust. And that's why I asked the question for all of the agencies who are out there offering childcare, if there's a mechanism where we can find out how many sites are available, especially for first responders, because they have a high need to have their children taken care of. So yeah, that is an issue I certainly have got jotted down, and we'll do more discussions around today and get back to you as soon as possible.
Excellent. I will need to move us along to other emergent themes, but I don't want to miss Gail's comment here, a suggestion from Gail that says, could we use a student volunteer to monitor and track childcare service availability? Feel free to respond in the chat to these great suggestions. We do want to hold space for anything else that's emerging for you, which is burning, which is other than food and childcare. Feel free to chime in. And if you have more to add on food and childcare, that's fine as well. But we just want to acknowledge that folks might have other themes that are top in mind to create a space for that. If we don't have any other themes, I would like to take this time to walk us into our breakout sessions. Peyton, can we please go to the next slide? There are some great comments and responses that are being shared by folks in the chat box. Like I said, we will make sure to share the transcript with you so we don't miss out on any of those resources. The breakout session really is an opportunity to have discussion in smaller groups based on your expressed interest in the chat. We will have, Vicky, can I request you to please paste details of the breakout groupings in the chat now? you will see that each of you, depending on your topic of interest, have been grouped into different breakouts. And as you get ready to magically move into the breakout, I really think Vicky in the back end has a wand that she wishes, and we will all be in breakouts in a few seconds. Before we do that, I'd like you to reflect on what supports are needed and top of mind as you think about your topic of interest. Automatically, in a few seconds, you will be moved to your breakout sessions. You will have 10 minutes with a facilitator in that room. Like we said, we are trying the breakout sessions for the first time. If there is a trip up, please do let your facilitator know. If you do land in a wrong room, let your facilitator know, and we will make sure to move you to the room that you selected, the topic that you selected. The breakout sessions are: Peyton is going to be taking care of food services. He will be your facilitator for food services, and we have 5 participants there. Kalika will be your facilitator for childcare, and we have 4 participants there. Stephanie will be looking at financial assistance and housing, and we have 7 participants there. So do we have 3 breakouts, Vicky? I think many of you have not responded. If you want to take the time to respond back, we have shared the link to the options that you have, the topic options that you have. So you could take the next 30 seconds to respond. And while you do that, please reflect on what supports are needed and top of mind as you think about your topic of interest.
I'd be very, okay, Kathy, you can go.
I can do that and you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. So what are the, I guess, what are the concerns, thoughts that come up for each of you when thinking about that prompt? You know, what supports are needed and top of mind as we think about food services during this, you know, particular unprecedented time?
I'm going to quickly start just so I can jump in, and then I'll take notes. And this is from my perspective as just an individual community member. As I talk to my friends, you know, they're all looking to know what to do, and I can understand why some people want to donate food, but I can also understand why that's not allowed right now. And I really in kind of concrete ways of, you know, something like this organization is mobilizing and spending an extra $30,000 a week to deliver food to our families. Please donate here. And then, so I just wish there was some way of doing that. And it could be something where people, you know, feed a family for a week with a $200 donation. I just feel like it would be a good way, because I think Eastside people want to, people who are living in our communities, they want to help people in our communities. And that would be, as much as letting people know what the resources are, letting the other part of the community know where they can help.
But we have one more. Amy is here as well from Microsoft. So Kathy, so really giving really direct and clear instructions to folks who are really willing, and where that money can be the best use and kind of the biggest bang for their buck.
Right, and I understand it's a little bit difficult because there's lots of organizations helping, and they all need that financial assistance. So we'll have to do a little bit of just putting it all out there, and people can decide, make a decision, and hopefully we'd get enough raised so that all the organizations would be able to be financially able to do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have thoughts on the prompt? Tom, you're on mute.
This is Tom Brewer.
You're good. We can. Oh, now you're back on mute. Hold on.
Righty.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Yeah, you'd think I'd figure out the on-off switch by now. So a couple of things top of mind for me. One is that the people I've been talking to who are in serving positions or in providers, among providers, are giving first attention to the people they were already working with. So an example, obviously, for me would be Jubilee Reach is stepping up to support 60 families, almost all of them, maybe not every single one, but most of them are families they have already been working with because they have programs for their children before and after school. And to sustain those, set up a way that twice a week families can come and pick up groceries at Jubilee Reach. So we're right now working to organize in the network of faith-based communities, particularly the churches around Jubilee Reach, that the supplies will be given from the churches to Jubilee Reach. They'll be gathered, packaged according to menus that have been provided, and then brought to the location for distribution. And I think that's a powerful thing. I have a lot of people saying, I don't want to write a check, not that they couldn't and not that they won't, but just, I want to do something. I want to do something active. I want to do something that contributes supply toward the need. So finding a way that we can involve those people is important, I think.
Mm. So folks are really action oriented beyond just
write a check. Yeah.
And Tom, you did mention that, you know, a lot of well, at least the folks that you've worked with, and I imagine this happens for other folks as well, they are really digging deep into the community or the population that they're already serving. And I know earlier on the call, we heard about things like translation services for food, and on Tuesday's call about the fear around, you know, folks who are undocumented coming to get food. So I wanted to raise that to the group, like the possibility, and again, it's a possibility of wanting to expand their reach at this time, or do we feel folks are, you know, kind of digging deep into like their own locus of control? Like, what is there a hunger for folks to want to reach out further than their, you know, than their current boundaries as it relates to the communities and populations they're serving? Just a question as folks think about food services, and especially at this time.
I do know that for HopeLink, we are concerned about our capacity over the long term, and that but some things to mention is that we've removed all intake processes. People who are undocumented are absolutely welcome to come to HopeLink for food. We're not tracking any information right now. I'd also like to just mention, I love the ideas that have been brought up, and definitely will pass on to our communications team that we should come up with a specific like ask or action item that people can take, and like what the impact of an action would be, like so many dollars would feed so many people, or something really clear that people can latch on to. Also, we are putting together an infographic, and something that we're going to share out soon, hopefully. We just need to do a couple of last checks on it, but it would be a DIY box that people could make for their community members or their neighbors. We're excited about that too, because people, if they can get ingredients in and build a box for their neighbor, then that can also help.
That's great. Thank you. And you had mentioned that HopeLink is not doing any of those intake processes and tracking information. Is that information about not tracking information being spread amongst different channels? Like, how is that word getting out?
It's not, yeah. So like I said, we are concerned about our ongoing capacity. And so I do need to check back with our team and see what our advertisement is at this point, because obviously we want as many people to be served as possible. And it is an interesting balance that we're just trying to figure out day by day. Like, how do we help, and how do we keep it going?
No, understood.
And, yeah. So
understood.
Yeah. So I'd like to circle back with this group for sure.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Hey, Tammy. I want to make sure I hear from everyone. Hey, Tammy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in another Zoom meeting on my laptop, my school laptop, that was incredibly important as well. So I was listening to them, and I asked someone from the Community Salvation Army to jump on here. I don't know if he was able to do that. Were we separated into a group that was centered around food?
Yes.
Perfect. And you are facilitating this? Oh, I'm sorry. You muted me.
For the next 60 seconds. So we.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It is recorded, so we can definitely go. You can go back, but I want to make sure that folks have a chance to, you as well, to speak.
Thank you.
In these last 60 seconds.
Thank you. I'm not sure what I can add that hasn't already been added, but I still want to stay part of this group because I'm in touch with Renewal Food Bank. I'm in touch with a lot of the faith communities that are around that are all asking, how can they help? What can they do? So yeah, I want to stay connected with this group big time.
Perfect. And I got a message from Jennifer Fisher that Renewal Food Bank is closed, but they're going to be opening again on Monday. So,
and I am in direct contact with Rich Bowen, the director.
Perfect.
So I put yesterday, one of the things that I did was I took a church that.
Everyone. See, we told you it is magic. Excellent. I hope that you had a good breakout session with your facilitator. Keeping in mind the time where we are sitting with time, I would like to invite one person to share their name. Can we go to the next slide, please, Peyton? In the report out, just share your name, the breakout room that you were in, and just 2 critical things that you took away from your discussion. We will do a quick round robin, and then I will invite Stephanie to close us out today. Who would like to go first?
I can do it for childcare. This is Christy Murphy with Boys and Girls Club. So one of the biggest things that we took away from our discussion was that Overlake employees were needing care. They did not know what the resources were around the area. So Lynn and I are going to connect and make sure that those individuals get the resources that they need and understand that there are services around, and possibly provide something on site or even closer nearby for those hospital employees.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can we move on to the next breakout session?
This is Kathy.
This is Judy. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, this is Kathy. I was in the food breakout session, and a couple of specific topics we talked about is that there's a lot of community members who want to support organizations that are helping people. So, and they want to do that hopefully in ways that they would both contribute money as well as time. And someone from HopeLink said that Chrissy from HopeLink said that they would try to get some messaging out to the community in order to kind of just really tell people what concrete ways they could help. And then we also talked about that as organizations put out the message that they're here to help families, it also will increase it. It'll be an increased need and more families will come, and then will those organizations have the financial means to keep on providing food in this case.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing, Kathy. Can we move on to our last volunteer from the third breakout session?
Hi, this is Judy, and I was in the breakout session for financial assistance. One of the issues raised was how to plan for rent assistance when eviction notices are expected to be down for a month or a couple of months. So I think it was it LifeSpring in particular was asking for ideas on what other agencies are doing, planning for in the way of rent assistance and eviction prevention. We also talked about employment services that are available from HopeLink, remote job coaching services, assistance with applying for unemployment insurance. HopeLink and Treehouse will be connecting. Treehouse is interested in job support for youth specifically, and we're going to try to find resources that are geared towards youth. And lastly, the WorkSource site in Redmond has been closed. They are trying to transition to remote services. It's not clear if that's available yet. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for all the volunteers in reporting out. For those of you that got caught out and didn't make it to your breakout session in time, there's good news. The breakout sessions did get recorded, and we'll make sure to share it with you. I would now like to invite Stephanie back to close us out. Thank you so much for all the great stuff that you all shared.
Quickly, Sandy, before we close, one overarching theme Helena was sharing when our group session got cut out. I do want to lift that back up, just recognizing that there's an overarching need for translation services. There's a theme around communication in this call and all the sessions that I was hearing. So just wanting to lift up, if someone has resources as it relates to translation services, to please submit those in the chat box, because that's kind of a theme that's been coming up today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalika. Stephanie is offline, I guess, so I will take the opportunity to close us out today. Thank you so much for your participation, for making time and prioritizing this call. We will be convening again on Tuesday. We will make sure that you will have a follow-up email with the chat transcript, the presentation, contact information of the participants. If you, for some reason, wouldn't like your contact information to be shared, please make sure to let Joe Tradi know. You will get links to the Google Drive. Other than that, is there anything else that we would like to share before we let folks go?
Hey, it's Joe Trotty. I just wanted to put in one more pitch that if you weren't one of the original email recipients but had the invite forwarded to you, be sure and put your contact info in the chat box so that I can get you the link to the Google Docs and the recordings and all the follow-up info.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we will see you again virtually on Tuesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.